So it's day 9 of the Jewel of Arabia expedition. The sun has just set in the west, and we are in what I think is possibly the most beautiful campsite of all that we've enjoyed on the Jewel of Arabia expedition. And we've enjoyed some pretty beautiful campsites, but there's something really special about this one. I'm surrounded by turtle bones on the, or shells, old shells on the beach, coral. Every rock seems to be made of coral. Beautiful white sand dropping down to a beautiful calm sea. It's just beautiful. We are now on the very southwestern tip of an island called Masirah Island, halfway down the east coast of Oman, after just another extraordinary day, which is day 9 of Jewel of Arabia. The days seem to be flying by so quickly, really, but I'm sheltering behind a small cairn of rocks to break the wind, and trying to summarise today is quite difficult, because so much seems to be happening every single day, and we're just meeting the most extraordinary people. I'd say the day got off to an emotional start, really. It was a windy night and a bit of a chill, a bit damp as always, next to the sea. Quite a noisy sea as compared to tonight. Tonight's absolutely flat, calm and beautiful, but last night was pretty windy, pretty noisy. But this morning we said goodbye after a short walk down on the beach to dip the camels' feet into the sea. Camels are actually quite good swimmers, despite being animals of the desert, really. But we walked the camels down onto the beach, dipped their toes in the sea, and said a fond farewell to Amour, our Bedouin companion from the community of Badia. Amour and I have done several journeys together in the past, the biggest 49 days when we recreated Bertram Thomas's 1930-31 journey from Salalah to Doha, which was the first crossing of the biggest sand desert on earth by a European. And so Amour and I know each other well. He's fantastic value, great company, an incredible character. I would urge you, if you haven't already done so, to go and look at some of the social media posts. Some of the video clips that were posted yesterday are quite hilarious. Quite a hilarious moment when one of Amour's camels, I think it was Samhan, showed his displeasure by coughing up a load of green, putrid, half-digested grass from the bowels of that enormous stomach, which went flying everywhere and splattered all of us. But anyway, that's a good farewell from Samhan, and a much more pleasant farewell to Amour. So we read a poem of thanks for his companionship on the journey, and off he went, and we continued south along the coast, following the route taken by Bertram Thomas in 1927, hopping from well to well, or beer to beer. Every well is named, so Bir Hadi, Bir Faisal, Bir Nigel, and all the locals know those wells, because in times gone past they were critically important for your survival. Less so today, but many of them are maintained by the government. Every well has a little plaque on it, every well's numbered, and there's an official registry of the wells, which are still important for the local Bedouin people, but clearly not as important as they once were. So having said farewell to Amour, we continued south until we popped out of the southern end of the Sharqiya Sands that we've crossed for the last 5 days. And at the southern end, there's an extension out into the sea of flat, very, very flat salt flats called Bahr al-Hikman. And we're going to be exploring Bahr al-Hikman later today and hearing from an extraordinary Omani lady who's the expert on why Bahr al-Hikman is so internationally important. But for Thomas, he couldn't go there. His Bedouin guides did not want to set foot on Bahr al-Hikman. And again, I will explain why later today. Thomas met the Sheikh of the island that I'm sitting on now, called Masirah. The Sheikh was on the mainland at the time, so Thomas therefore didn't need to come to the island to talk to the Sheikh and ask for his permission to continue his journey. He was able to meet him on the mainland. So for us, we've been invited to meet the Sheikh, the Wali of Masirah Island, and we're heading there this morning. So we wanted to cross. You can do so now by ferry, and there are several ferries a day. Some are scheduled, others will just wait, and once they are full of cars, then they will go. So there's no schedule there. You just have to be patient and wait. So we got on an old ferry from India, a fantastic crew, really friendly guys from Chennai in India, lovely people, and just an amazing array of tech in what looks an old Millennium Falcon style ferry, but actually it's got a lot of tech on board, and a great crew who are great fun. And we'll be posting some pictures of that onto our social media today, and some video clips so that you can see. So that was good fun, and we reached Masirah sort of early to mid-afternoon, and then just slowly followed the coast down to the point where we camped. So thanks to our friends in Muscat who directed us to a really nice area to camp. But at this point we're on day 9, and for Thomas, he was on day 14 of his journey along the coast of Oman, and he was delighted to exit the sands, because in his journal that he wrote to the Royal Geographical Society, he wrote, and now we enter rolling uplands with occasional acacia, a welcome sight, for it meant firewood, of which we had seen none for some days. Waterholes here are scarce, and water is brackish or salty. Footprints of every conceivable domestic animal, and many wild ones, led to our next waterhole. Though I saw nothing wild alive bigger than the desert lizard, my guide told me that in the past wolves, leopards, and hyenas were common hereabouts, but their numbers had diminished with the consistently decreasing rainfall of recent years, which has been desiccating southern Arabia. So clearly, rainfall is pretty erratic out here, and for Thomas, that night he was to have a pretty wild night. Actually, his in the thunder and the rain, his tent came crashing down in the middle of the night. He said, "My small tent crashing about my ears in the small hours amidst thunder and lightning. My Bedouin companions were drenched to the skin, but still the Wadi did not flow." So he was having his own adventures. Our adventures really continued, because we came down to the southern tip, and as soon as the sun set, we were surrounded by swarms of very large moths, and they were very large. They were banging into our heads as soon as we turned the lights on. Clearly, the lights were a point of attraction to them, and my thanks to Duncan Mackay, my good friend in Cambridge, who, when I sent him a picture, instantly identified these as silver-tipped hawk moths. And again, we will be posting a picture of those on our social media today for any of you lepidopterists out there. And we put out the camera trap, and amazingly, it seemed that the rocks were moving. And I know we're in this island where our friend Jonathan, if you listen to our podcasts about 3 or 4 podcasts ago, Jonathan spoke about Masirah being important for jinn, the spirits. There's something very special about Masirah, and at some point during the evening we heard a banging noise from within a pile of rocks very close to the campsite. And when we went over to examine this pile of rocks, it seemed to be moving. And when we looked even closer, the rock face was alive with crabs. And I'm not quite sure what crabs they are. We're going to, again, post those video clips onto our social media today, and hopefully someone can tell us what they were. But extraordinary life here in what seems to be a barren, desiccated island. Huge amounts of wildlife. For the ornithologists, there are whimbrel and herons and sandpipers calling. It's just beautiful. And the sand, as we went for a walk just before the light finally disappeared, coming up from the sea were a series of what looked like tractor tyre tracks leading up to an enormous upheaval of sand, almost a bunker-like, if you're a golfer, bunker-like holes on the beach. And clearly these are turtle tracks of nesting turtles coming up out of the sea and laying their eggs and returning to sea once again. And that's partly why we're here on Masirah, because Masirah is internationally important for turtles. There are four main types of turtles in Oman: the olive ridley turtle, the hawksbill turtles, and the green turtles. But here on Masirah is internationally important for its population of loggerhead turtles. And like anywhere, really, human pressure's taking its toll. And about 30 years ago, there were many, many more turtles nesting on Masirah than there are today. I think the most recent assessment shows about 15,000 female loggerheads coming ashore every year. That's still a huge number, but way, way down on what it was in the past. There was a time, I'm still not sure whether this is still true, but when Masirah was the most important turtle rookery for loggerheads in the world for this species. But clearly now, significant declines, as there are all around the world. And that decline's happened in a single generation. Many reasons why, really, but whatever the reason, the poor loggerhead turtle has now been designated onto the IUCN red list of endangered species as critically endangered, and that means that the population is considered to be facing an extremely high risk of extinction in the wild. So yesterday we wanted to meet someone on the ground here working with the local community to try and reverse that decline. And we were very lucky to meet a fascinating man called Juma Al-Aremi. And Juma works for the Environment Society of Oman, who do brilliant work along the coast here, along with the Environment Authority, who work with the turtle populations a little bit further north. But the two organisations together are doing some great work to try and stabilise the situation for the turtles, especially here on Masirah. And I was able to, earlier, before we headed south to our camp, I was able to meet with Juma in the main community on Masirah, and we jumped into the car for about 15 minutes for a quick chat. And I'm very grateful to Ibrahim Al-Hasni for translating, because my Arabic is not good enough to speak to Juma directly, but we could only limit it to about 15 minutes because I had to turn obviously the engine off and the air conditioning off so you could hear the recording. But by then the temperature inside the car was about 40 degrees, and when I saw the sweat dripping off the end of everyone's nose, I knew it was time to end the podcast. So on the point of ending the podcast, we're going to stop now and we're going to go over and listen to Juma Al-Aremi talking to us about the work that he does here on Masirah with turtles for the Environment Society of Oman. Ibrahim, could you ask Juma to tell us what's his job? What does he do here day to day on Masirah?
هو يخبرك وش وظيفتك وش هنا انت تسوي بشكل عام في مصيرة.
منسق ميداني بجمعية البيئة العمانية، المحافظة على السلاحف، نقوم بتعداد السلاحف أثناء الموسم، تعشيش على شواطئ جزيرة مصيرة. 4 أنواع من السلاحف، طبعا يتم حصر الأعداد على حسب الموسم.
Okay, he said we had to save the turtle in Masirah. So, and also we had to work with the community, and we leave much as possible that turtle his cleanup.
Okay, and what are the threats that turtles face here on Masirah? What do we think the reasons are behind the numbers getting less and less?
والله عدة أسباب لتناقص السلاحف. هو التلوث الضوئي، وهو الشباك في المحيط، والسفن المارة يحصل صدام، وعدة عوامل حتى منها المعيشة، يعني المراعي اللي تعيش منها نفس الحالة.
Okay, he said we have a lot of things. They put it. The turtle is coming down. So many like light of they working with that, and also the sheep, and also that new generation because of that building is coming fast. So that one important. He's making that turtle. He's coming down.
Yeah. So that's the street lights. As the island gets busier and more developed, more and more construction, more street lights. And my understanding is that the turtles then, instead of going out to sea when they hatch, they swim in. They go inland, away from the sea, and then I guess the ships is just. We've just come over here on a ferry, on a boat, and I think there were 6 ferries today. And I think when I last came to Masirah 20 years ago, there was just 2 ferries each day. So the volume of boat traffic, and I guess the collisions, is much worse. Are there any signs of the numbers starting to come back up, or are the numbers steady of the loggerhead turtles, or are they still going down?
الأعداد في تناقص. الآن الأعداد في تناقص بسبب هذه العوامل. يعني التلوث الضوئي، يعني مثلا لما يطلعون صغار السلاحف يروحوا للإضاءة، ما يعيشوا أكثر. نفس الحالة عندهم مشاكل في المحيط، في شباك وفي سفن تصدموا وفي بلاستيك تلوث، في يعني عدة أشياء. فالعدد للأسف في تناقص.
Yeah, he's apologized because of the quantity of number of the turtle. He's coming down and down because what he said before, like the sheep in the sea, and also the lot of plastic and the street light. All these things put it the turtle is coming down and down, and until now they are worrying about this one.
Yes. Yeah. And what are they doing? What are we trying to do differently to try and stop the numbers coming down? What can we do with the street lights, and what can we do when we talk to the fishermen?
والحين حاولين نتجنب يعني نتعامل عند أصحاب المنازل الجديدة بوضع إضاءة يعني صديقة للبيئة، مما يمنع يعني اسم السلاحف إلى الذهاب إلى أماكن بعيدة. يعني في حالة أن يكون الضوء ضوء يعني فاتح أو ضوء أبيض، تكون السلاحف تذهب له فما ترجع للشواطئ. فهذا الإضاءة اللي جالسين يشتغلون عليها الحين هي هذه الإضاءة صديقة للبيئة، تحافظ على السلاحف، يعني توضع بإضاءة وترجع. هذه واحدة من ضمن العوامل المحافظة. رقم 2، فيه الفريق يعمل توعية على المدارس دائما باستمرار، وفي نفس الشيء في حملات على الصيادين، وفي اجتماعات صاير يعني يعني صاير كله بالنسبة هذا الموضوع لهذا الموضوع، يعني بما يخص هذا الموضوع.
They trying to work with that whose new houses near of the beach, and we try most possible they work with that solar panel because that's friendly with the environment. And the other things they work with that school awareness, because they know this is new generation. They not understand like before what happened, because most of them in the social media. So they are trying to much as possible. They give him awareness.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
أيضا يعني في إحنا سنويا نعمل حملة تنظيف للشباك المرمية على الشواطئ.
Yeah, and this is every year they make it volunteering the cleanup of that for the sea, because they try as much we put the turtle his not coming down.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, I know there's a lot going on. Juma's in the front line of that, coordinating local communities and volunteers, cleaning up the plastic, new construction, getting lights facing down rather than up, and use of solar panels. So look, we're going to stop fairly soon because we're sitting in a car and there's no air conditioning, so it's not going to ruin the podcast, but we all have sweat dripping off the end of our noses because it's 33 degrees outside. But Juma, thank you very much.